China, a sporting superpower of the 21st century, a nation frequently towards the top of Olympic medal standings and dominant in a number of sports. Nowadays, China's participation at the Olympics is seen as something of a given. It seems only logical that the world's most populous country would feature prominently at the world's largest sporting event. But for much of the 20th century, the Middle Kingdom was absent from the Olympic Games, owing to a dispute over international recognition, territory, and names. This is the story of China's Olympic absence, and how the country made its eventual return to the Games. China first sent an Olympic delegation to the Paris Games of 1924. However, all 4 Chinese athletes withdrew before their competitions began, meaning it wouldn't be until the Los Angeles Games of 1932 that a Chinese athlete would finally be able to call themselves an Olympian. At this point in time, all of China was under the nationalist rule of Chiang Kai-shek, and the country was officially known as the Republic of China. But even at this early stage in China's Olympic history, the seeds of a decades-long dispute had already been sown. The Chinese Communist Party was founded in 1921, and by 1927 they were providing armed resistance to the nationalist government, leading to the outbreak of the Chinese Civil War in the same year. The Second World War paused hostilities, with both the nationalists and communists working together to fight the Japanese occupation of China. However, once the World War was won, the Civil War resumed, with communist forces eventually taking control of much of mainland China, culminating in the declaration of the People's Republic of China in October 1949. With the Communist Party in power, Chiang Kai-shek and many nationalist supporters fled to one of their final strongholds, the island of Taiwan, and made their new capital in the city of Taipei. Despite having lost the overwhelming majority of their territory, the nationalists continued to call themselves the Republic of China, and maintained their claim to sovereignty over the mainland as well as Taiwan. This meant that there were 2 separate entities using the name China. The People's Republic of China, also known as Communist China, with its capital in Beijing and in control of the mainland, and then there was the Republic of China, or Nationalist China, with its territory in Taiwan and headquartered in Taipei. However, as the 2 Chinas had no diplomatic relations, and both claimed to be the rightful holder of the other's territory, international organisations and foreign countries soon found themselves with a conundrum. Which China would they recognise? Many of the decisions fell on ideological lines. The Soviet Union and its satellite states recognised the new People's Republic, while most capitalist nations, the USA and France included, maintained recognition for the Republic, now based in Taiwan. In the sporting sphere, the IAAF, the federation responsible for governing athletics, continued to view the Republic in Taipei as the legitimate China, and the federations for most other sports followed suit, though swimming, basketball and football recognised the People's Republic in Beijing within just a few years of its founding. Just months before the 1952 Olympics, the International Olympic Committee still only recognised the National Olympic Committee in Taipei. However, Finland, the host country for the 1952 Games, recognised the People's Republic instead. With no consensus, the International Olympic Committee had 2 options: invite teams from both Chinas or neither. The president of the IOC at the time, Siegfried Edström, preferred the latter option, having grown tired of the adversarial behaviour of the 2 Chinas. However, the majority of the committee disagreed, eventually giving the go-ahead for both Beijing and Taipei to send a delegation to Helsinki. This decision wasn't to the liking of authorities in Taiwan, however, viewing the inclusion of the People's Republic at the Games as a demotion from their previous status as the only China at the Olympics, resulting in officials from the ROC to withdraw their athletes from the Helsinki Games in protest. As for the People's Republic, their Olympic debut wasn't exactly a fairy tale. Their athletes were only allowed to compete in sports in which their national association was recognised, and the invitation to the Games arrived in Beijing so late that only one competitor, Wu Chuanyu, got the chance to compete, finishing 5th in his heat of the 100-metre backstroke. He would be the only Olympian from the People's Republic for another 28 years. In the years following the Helsinki Games, the People's Republic would formally establish its own National Olympic Committee, leading to Beijing receiving an invite to the Melbourne Olympics of 1956. However, unlike many countries, the IOC didn't rescind its recognition for the Republic in Taipei upon recognising the People's Republic in Beijing, instead choosing to extend invites to both for the Melbourne Games. Upon learning that Taipei would be sending a team to Melbourne, the Communist government of China decided to withdraw its athletes, not wanting to compete alongside a republic that they considered to have ceased existence 7 years earlier. As a result, the Nationalist Republic went on to be the only China in Melbourne, sending 20 athletes to the Australian city, with their best result being an 8th place finish in the decathlon. Chiang Kai-shek's republic would continue to be the only China at the Olympics for the next 2 decades, but the island's participation didn't come without controversy. In 1959, the IOC banned Taiwan from using the word China in its name, as it no longer represented sport on the mainland. As a result, Taiwan competed at the Rome Olympics of 1960 under the name Formosa, a name which provoked the Taiwanese delegation into entering the opening ceremony with a banner that read "Under Protest." Despite the naming row, the 1960 Olympics would see the first medalist from either China, with Yuan Chuanquang winning the silver medal in the decathlon with a score of 8,334 points. For the remainder of the 1960s, little changed in the China dispute at the Olympics. The People's Republic remained absent from the Games, while Taiwan continued to send athletes, albeit under a rotation of different names. In 1964 and 1968 they competed as Taiwan, but began the 70s as the Republic of China at the Munich Olympics of 1972. However, as the years went by, the Republic of China's status waned, as more and more countries chose to recognise the government in Beijing over the one in Taipei. In 1971, the UN voted to admit the People's Republic of China, thereby ending the ROC's place in the organisation. However, it was Canada's recognition of the People's Republic 1 year earlier that would prove more decisive in enabling the mainland's return to the Olympic Games. Canada may seem like an unlikely candidate to change the fates of the two Chinas, but with Montreal due to host the 1976 Olympics, the Canadian government's change in stance meant Taiwanese athletes would face an additional barrier in attending the Games. No longer would Canadian authorities admit them to the Olympics should their documentation use the name China, even though, at least in Olympic terms, the team was still known as the Republic of China. Not wanting to see any country forcibly ejected from the Games, the IOC negotiated with the Canadian government, eventually agreeing that the Taiwanese would be able to compete so long as they didn't use the term Republic in their name. Taiwan refused and withdrew its athletes from the Games. Mainland China was also absent from Montreal, still refusing to join the Olympic movement while the IOC recognised the Republic of China. The debacle in Montreal prompted the IOC into finding a long-term solution to the China dispute, with then Olympic President Lord Kalanen determined to find a way to bring the mainland and its population of 1 billion back into the Olympic fold, without having to expel Taiwan. The IOC set up a commission to visit both Beijing and Taipei in order to find areas for a potential compromise. After facing some complications, the Commission eventually found that Beijing may be willing to participate if the Republic of China were to change its name and flag, as both were seen as symbols of pre-communist China and threats to the authority of the People's Republic. The Commission, headed by President Kalanen, also recommended that the National Olympic Committee based in Beijing should be recognised as the Chinese Olympic Committee. And in 1979, after considerable debate among its members, the IOC passed a resolution re-establishing recognition of the committee in Beijing, but maintained recognition of the committee in Taipei, with its name change to be discussed at a later date. At the IOC Executive Board meeting in Nagoya later that year, the resolution was finalised. The committee based in Taipei would compete at future Olympics as Chinese Taipei, a name designed to be deliberately ambiguous, recognising the home city of the committee while not defining its territorial borders, while the term Chinese could be seen as referring to the island as culturally Chinese, or as part of Greater China, as the People's Republic viewed the island. The Nagoya resolution also stated that the Chinese Taipei team wouldn't be able to use the flag of the Republic of China, leading to the creation of a new banner, featuring the white sun of the old flag, positioned above the Olympic rings, with both surrounded by the shape of the national flower of the ROC. The resolution also prevents Chinese Taipei from using the national anthem of the Republic of China, again because this was a symbol that the mainland saw as a threat to their sovereignty. In its place, Chinese Taipei uses its national flag anthem at the Olympics, with Olympic-specific lyrics to avoid causing any offence. Officials in Taiwan weren't pleased with the resolution, seeing it as a demotion of their status, and Henry Hsu, an IOC member from Taiwan, attempted to sue the International Olympic Committee in response to the decision, though ultimately failed in his legal challenge. With the Nagoya resolution passed, the New York resort town of Lake Placid became host to the first Olympic delegation from the People's Republic in 28 years, with 24 competitors making the journey from China to the 1980 Winter Olympics. Their best result of the Games coming in the biathlon relay with a 14th place finish. However, their real success at these Games was attending on their own terms, and doing so in a country that didn't recognise the government in Beijing until 1 year beforehand. Athletes representing Chinese Taipei were due to compete in Lake Placid as well. However, when they arrived at Olympic venues with ID cards using the word Republic, they were refused entry and sent home before the Games began. Even though mainland China made its return at the Winter Games of 1980, their flag would be nowhere to be found at the Summer Games of the same year, with both the People's Republic and Chinese Taipei choosing to boycott the Moscow Olympics of 1980 in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan the December before. 4 years later, Sarajevo welcomed competitors from both Chinese Taipei and the People's Republic to the Winter Olympics, marking the first time that both competed at the same Olympics since the end of the Chinese Civil War. Later in 1984, the People's Republic would finally make its return to the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, ending their 32-year absence from the Games. And in the first gold medal event of the Games, Chinese shooter Zhu Haifeng took first place, winning his country's first gold medal in its checkered history at the Olympics, with his victory coming in the same city where 52 years earlier Chinese competitors first took to the Olympic field of play. the People's Republic would go on to win another 14 gold medals in LA, 3 of which were earned by gymnast Li Ning, who was crowned the Prince of Gymnastics through his success across the apparatuses. Chinese Taipei likewise found success in LA, winning only their 3rd ever medal at an Olympic Games, with a bronze in weightlifting for Tsai Wen-yi. Since the Games of 1984, both the People's Republic of China and Chinese Taipei have attended every edition of the Olympics, with their participations crossing some surprising boundaries. The People's Republic took part at the Seoul Olympics of 1988 at a time when Beijing asserted that South Korea didn't exist, while athletes under the Chinese Taipei flag have attended every Olympic Games held on the Chinese mainland, despite the fact that the Republic and People's Republic still remain legally at war. In the time since their re-debut, the People's Republic has gone on to become one of the most successful countries at the Olympic Games, sitting at 4th place on the all-time medal table, with only Great Britain, the Soviet Union and the USA having won more medals across all editions of the Games. China's hosting of the Olympics in 2008, 2022, and the Youth Olympics of 2014 have drawn the People's Republic closer to the centre of the Olympic movement, allowing the country to project a positive image of itself to the wider world through the medium of sport. On the other side of the Strait of Taiwan, Chinese Taipei have found their own success, winning at least 1 gold medal at every Summer Games since 2004. Their name at the Olympics does still generate controversy, with many in Taiwan viewing it as confusing, misleading, or even demeaning. However, when a potential Olympic name change came to a referendum in 2018, 55% of voters in Taiwan opted to keep the name Chinese Taipei, with fears that seeking to compete under the name Taiwan would see their athletes barred from international sport altogether. Thus, for the foreseeable future, athletes from this island in East Asia will continue to compete at the Olympics under Beijing's terms. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed and would love to hear your feedback in the comments. Also, as you've made it this far, why not leave a like and consider subscribing? Hope to see you again soon.